Okay, so this lesson is part of our series on flipped learning and part of our dossier on the French media. And we are going to focus particularly on Les Francais et le journal télévisé de 20 heures. This is working towards our reading comprehension test later this term. So 3 points that I want to dwell upon particularly in this lesson. And they're actually not going to be 3 different sections. They're all sort of interrelated. I want to talk about reading comprehension strategies. Sorry. I want to talk about recognizing existing structures in the text and in sentences. And of course, I want to have a sort of look at vocabulary in context, of course. Okay, so on this slide, the first thing we want to do is to establish those all-important networks of words. So we have, of course, le JT here that you can clearly link to le journal télévisé here. The second, so it's nothing new for you here. The second important word or expression here is one that you already know, of course, is source d'information. Now, what's important here is to be able to have source d'information with surrounding adjectives. So, source d'information principale, source d'information importante, source d'information secondaire, par rapport or with regards to. So, really for this, you should learn source d'information along with those 3 adjectives. We can see here that we're talking about le journal télévisé de 20 heures. Now just bear in mind that there's another big news bulletin in France, and it's the 1 o'clock one, 1 p.m. Some people do still go home and have lunch at home every day, and they'll probably resume work around about 2 o'clock, so they do have time to watch the 1 p.m. news. Okay, a key verb may be worth noticing here as well in that ping box. Okay, vous informer sur. So again here, pour vous informer sur. Now what does that tell us? That tells us the dictionary form of this verb is s'informer. Okay, and that's going to be a key word, key term for us here. S'informer. So it is a reflexive word, to get your information. Okay, s'informer. And the accompanying preposition sur. S'informer sur l'actualité. Pour m'informer sur le sport, je regarde Channel 10, par exemple. So a fair bit of vocabulary in this on this slide, and once again, not just vocabulary, but vocabulary and accompanying expression and surrounding context. On this next slide, we start once again by trying to link information. Something that you wouldn't know, but in effect, la grande messe du 20 heures is actually an expression which is synonymous to le journal télévisé. Okay, so you could somehow, I suppose, say je regarde la grande messe du 20 heures régulièrement. It's of course a metaphor, and messe here is the same thing as mass. So you see how religious French people can be about this. The colon here would probably be best replaced by either of a couple of verbs. One would be avoir, or the other one would be prendre. You need to conjugate those, of course. So, la grande messe du 20 heures prend une place importante, a une place importante dans le cœur des Français. Now, we have the cœur here, the heart of French people. In English, you'd probably just have in the lives of French people. Essential to this slide is the understanding of the key structure that we have here in this pink box. You see that you start with a C with an imperfect. So if this happened, then you would have that. So you have your conditional here. If I cross here, I've got manquer, ending in er, which is my dictionary form and the ending characteristic of the conditional. So if the TV news, the 8 o'clock news, disappeared, you would miss it, and 4 possibilities. You would miss it a lot. You would miss it a fair bit, assez, okay. You would miss it little or very little, or you would not miss it at all. So if you wanted to include these into a sentence, for pas du tout, you would actually need to have the first bit of the negation as well. So when you answer pas du tout on its own, you would say, you know, pas du tout, not at all. But if it's as part of a sentence, then you need to have the ne in there somewhere. Just remember that manquer, okay, is a fairly peculiar verb in French. So if in English you have X misses Y, regardless of what X and Y are, in French you're going to have the reverse situation. You're going to have Y manque à X, okay? So the situation here has been flip-flopped, if you want. Okay, on to our next slide. Here, once again, we want to notice that we also have a conditional here, the conditional for être, be. So of course it's not a coincidence that in those pink boxes you have similar structures, one that have that establish some sort of hypothesis. La durée idéale, durée, duration, okay, du JT. This column here, always a good idea to try and replace that by a verb. Okay, so here, la durée idéale du JT est un format long. We could have that in the conditional, okay, and we say la durée idéale du JT serait un format long pour ceux qui sont attachés, un format court pour les autres. Right, we have two categories of people here, okay? We have les autres on the one hand and ceux qui sont attachés on the other hand. Now, les autres, other people, is rather easy to understand. The first part here may be a bit more difficult. Now, ceux means those, okay? We've got different options here. It's actually part of a series, okay? So we have celui, if it was masculine and singular, celle, feminine singular, ce, that's the one we've got here, masculine and plural or mixed and plural, and celle for exclusively feminine and plural. Okay. So qui tells us this is a relative pronoun and tells us this is the subject of the following verb. The following verb here is here, so it's être attaché. Now, être attaché, I'm going to go here, être attaché, sorry, goes with a, okay? So a, and then le JT, we know that a plus le becomes o. So you would say something like, je suis attaché au JT, meaning I have a strong connection with the 8 o'clock news. The 8 o'clock news are very important to me. Now what happens is that this is actually replaced by and put forward by E. That's the E that we've got here. Okay. Remember, E is an object pronoun that will replace a plus a noun when the noun is not a person. Okay? When the noun is not a person. Okay, make a good note of that, and we'll do a few exercises on that and on object pronouns as we have done a fair bit now in class. Okay, we are going to leave it here for this short lesson. There's still a bit more vocabulary on that, but we'll see this vocabulary when we develop it a bit further in our next lesson, where we're going to have paragraphs of text that are associated to the slides that we have just seen. So that's the end of this lesson. We've seen vocabulary in context, and we've seen recurring structures. Our strategies are, of course, to know our vocabulary and to know what words go with or what nouns go with which adjectives, for example. And another strategy, of course, is to try and recognize those structures that we already know.